welcome back to the podcast. This is Fitness in Your Mouth. I am your host, DJ Madsen, and today we have a very special guest. We will be talking with Brett Hawke, and he is the head swim coach of the Enhanced Games. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks, DJ. Thanks for having me.
Can you start out by telling us a little bit about your background in case they don't already know who you are?
Well, I am currently the head coach, the swim coach for the Enhanced Games. We actually have three sports. There's track, sprinting, there's weightlifting, and there's swimming at the Enhanced Games, and they're going to be taking place in Las Vegas on May 24th. It's going to be the first Enhanced Games, and we're out here in Abu Dhabi right now training as a full team. So all the sports are out here, all the coaches are out here, all the staff are out here, and so there's about 50 people out in Abu Dhabi training for the Enhanced Games right now. Currently we have 17 swimmers total, and they'll all be competing in sprint races. I'm predominantly a sprint coach. I was an Olympic sprinter myself. I swam for Australia at a couple of Olympics, 2000, 2004. And then I went on to coach at three Olympics, 2008, 2012, and 2016. That's kind of my specialty is sprinting. So I was very fortunate when the Enhanced Games came along and said, we're going to do sprinting and we want you to be the coach. And so I've been doing it now. I've been with Enhanced for about a year and a half, and it's just been a wild ride. A lot of fun, a lot of controversy, as you know, and it's been very interesting to see how it's all been received, but super excited about what's happening in the next few months.
Before we get into your involvement directly with the Enhanced Games, can you tell us a little bit about what the Enhanced Games are? I think right now, most people are hearing Olympics, steroids, Olympics, compounds, but really, the way that I look at it, and I hope a lot of other people, is that we're kind of pushing beyond our genetic ceiling. And this is the future of sports, essentially. We hear the term biohacking, and now we just have a safe measure and federation in order to see what humans are actually capable of.
Yeah, I think that's the exciting part, right? Is that we are looking predominantly at pushing boundaries and limits of human performance. When I first got involved with Enhanced, there was one swimmer. His name was James Magnuson. He basically put his hand up and said, I'd love to compete at the Enhanced Games. And within about a month, we had two athletes. And the second one was Christian Golomiev. He'd just finished at the Paris Olympics and he was looking for something new and exciting. So James and Christian started training together. And the objective at that point was to try and break the world record in the 50 freestyle. And within a couple of months, Christian actually ended up breaking the world record and swimming faster than any human in history after just a few weeks of enhancements. And so the idea
After
is
only a
to,
few weeks.
yeah, it was just a few weeks. But he noticed the difference, and we can go into that in terms of what I saw and what he felt. But there was definitely a difference in the way he performed and ended up breaking the world record. So I guess the idea behind the Enhanced Games is to allow athletes under medical supervision to use enhancements to better their performance. And a lot of them are trying to either swim better than they've ever swum before, or some of them legitimately can break world records. So that's ultimately the goal. But again, like I said, it's under medical supervision. We're out here in Abu Dhabi. And all the athletes, DJ, it's super incredible in terms of what they're getting on the medical side. These are Olympic athletes who have been to multiple Olympics, and they don't know anything about their bodies. I mean, they're getting CAT scans, they're getting CTs, they're getting MRIs, anything that you can possibly imagine in terms of health and wellness and understanding your body. These athletes are going through rigorous testing here at the hospital with some of the best doctors in the world, and they're learning so much about themselves that they've never ever experienced before under any Olympic conditions. And so it's really incredible, the science that's going into this and the knowledge that we're going to get out of this, let alone just the performance that we're going to see. You know what I mean?
Now, okay, we're going to dive straight into the controversy, like at the beginning, but are our athletes not receiving this level of medical care and attention and rehab on the actual Olympic side of things? Because I have thoroughly loved following some of the training that you have been posting, because you know what realm of the industry I fall in. And I do work with a lot of like endurance athletes, but in terms of what you guys are doing, this has been fascinating to
Yeah.
watch even just your stretch outs, your warm outs, your, how you guys are actually training, what the day-to-day looks like, the recovery equipment. Is this not what we're doing with our standard Olympians?
No, listen, the Olympians themselves, and I'm glad you're saying that too, because I'm purposely trying to put stuff out there to show how hard these athletes are working and the detail and the effort that we're putting into this and the amount of support that they're getting because they just don't get this on the Olympic side. And it's not anything to say, look, I've tried to separate myself from what I was and what I am now and who I represented and who I represent now. So it's not a us against them type mentality or fight. It's more of just I'm very happy where I'm at and the people that are surrounding us and what they're providing us because we just haven't had that in the past, right? Like athletes have had to dig into their own pockets, and if they wanted anything, even as simple as a massage, a 1 hour massage, they'd have to pay for that themselves. And so no way that they ever went through this stringent testing. Most Olympic athletes have no idea what's going on in their body, and they're pushing their bodies to the limit every single day, and they've never had a CAT scan, MRI, maybe even something as simple as a blood test. They don't even get regular blood work. These athletes have no idea what's going on inside them. Whereas on our side now, on the enhanced side, the medical screenings are just really incredible and intense, and they're just getting so much information out of it. But like you said, the support around that as well, the physio, the massage, the nutrition. We've actually got a full-time nutritionist. We've got a psychologist. And not to say the team of doctors that are around us as well. Cardiologists, physiologists. All sorts of doctors. So it's a level above and beyond anything they've ever experienced before.
So now we're not even just seeing compound implementation, but basically we're throwing in all of these variables that realistically our top performing athletes should probably have had to begin with. I've been so impressed, and obviously I'm not going to, pry for financials, but this is all being provided at the expense of the enhanced games, correct? This is not coming out of athlete pockets.
Yeah, it's all private funding, and there's been a lot of investors, and we're actually about to go public in the next few months as well. So there's a lot of money coming into this. A lot of people want to see this work and be successful. We've got contracted at Resorts World in Las Vegas for a number of years in the future. So it's not like this is one-time thing. It's not like it's going to go away anytime soon. It's just going to get bigger and better, and it's exciting what is going on behind the scenes for sure.
So when I heard about the enhanced games, it was almost like a distant buzzword. I'd heard little bits here, little bits there, little pieces on a podcast. And I just assumed it was one of those things that was going to come to fruition, like maybe in a decade or so. Like this seemed so far removed from what I thought was going to happen. How did you hear about the enhanced games? Who recruited who?
I first heard about it on the Joe Rogan podcast. I love listening to his podcast.
Same.
Yeah, and I listened to that episode with the founders of the enhanced games, and I was like, wow. And I was like you, I was like, oh, this isn't going to happen anytime soon, but how cool is the concept? And then next minute, James Magnuson put his hand up, and I decided to just interview him. I was interested in why he was wanting to do it, and then again a couple of weeks later, he reached out to me and said, Brett, I'm having trouble finding anyone that wants to coach me or can coach me in Australia. So I know that you've coached two of the fastest swimmers in history. I'm trying to be one of them. Could you coach me? And I said, yeah, no worries. Like, come out. And he said, well, look, we have to do it undercover. We have to kind of do it secretively right now because there's a lot of people against us and what we're doing. And we're trying to break a world record in the next few months. So let's just do it privately. So I did that. And then we kind of filmed a documentary around what we were doing, which is on YouTube, and kind of documented the process that we went through to try and break that world record. And it was just fascinating. The first part of just being with Enhanced was just a couple of guys, but with a little bit of funding and just trying to work hard at breaking this world record. And so that's what the original documentary was. Like I said, it's on YouTube, but now we're fully funded, we're fully backed, and we've got teams of people, and we are filming another documentary at the moment, so you'll get to see what we're doing behind the scenes here as well. So it's very transparent, everything is open, and we're trying to give as much detail as we can to what we're doing.
So in your experience and in your in your work. How did you feel about enhancements prior to this? Because I know before I got into this industry, I was at a point where I felt like pre-workout was cheating. I thought if you were leveraging anything
Yeah.
outside of sugars, if you were doing anything for extra vasodilation, caffeine, like that was unnecessary. And now look at the realm that I'm in. But I know I have changed a lot over the years, and my perspective is it's a complete 180. Were you always pro compound?
Well, I'd be interested to hear your story too in that sense because I think I was the same way, right? Like, I think we all are brainwashed in a way to believe that sport is clean, everybody's doing things the right way, or, the right way to me is an even playing field. And so that's why I really love what we're doing at Enhance is because I feel like it's the right way now. Like everybody's getting exactly the same things, the same opportunities. And I think that's what sport was to me originally. I lived in this fantasy land of like everybody's treating it the same way. Everybody's, nobody's taking pre-workout and nobody's taking anything that they shouldn't take. And so I lived with this idea that when I stood up on the blocks at the Olympics, I was racing against people that had done it the same way that I had done it. Done it clean, done it right, and that just wasn't the case. And the more Olympics I went to, the more I realized that that wasn't happening. I was very naive in that respect. And then the other side of that, DJ, which you know, is that I was also led to believe that these compounds were very, very dangerous, which is just not true. It's just not true at all. And when I say dangerous, I mean extremely dangerous. Like everybody I talk to now who we try to bring into the enhanced games, their first idea around enhancements is like, oh, this is going to kill me, or this is going to do this. They go to the extremes of like what could happen. And so through my learning, I actually have reached out to people in the industry and funny enough, you were one of those people that I reached out to for information and knowledge, and you gave me so much knowledge around the compounds and the enhancements, and it just changed my perspective on what these were and what they could do and why they even exist in the first place. So I think when you dive into the actual science and actually what these compounds do, you have a different perspective completely. So once I decided to do that, I realized, first of all, sport is not clean. And
That's a hard pill to swallow, no pun
yeah,
intended, but
yeah,
that's and for general population
yeah,
too.
it's really
That's a
hard.
big one.
People just do not accept it. They just do not want to accept it.
I still don't want to. Even in my industry, we have natural shows that fall under the WADA, and I know there's athletes that won't test clean. I think that's a hard thing for public perception, especially around the enhanced games, is there's a large demographic that truly believe that everybody in the Olympics, everybody in the top portion of their sports and these athletic events, they're clean, and they're not. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, it makes an unfair setting for everybody, whereas the enhanced games, it's equal territory and you get
yeah,
to push hard.
yeah, for sure. Something as simple as a stimulant, right? Like, a stimulant is a drug. And these are the things that I've had to learn over time is that you take certain drugs for certain things, right? And it's what we're willing to accept and not accept type thing, right? But like I woke up this morning. I'm doing this podcast from Abu Dhabi. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, and what's the first thing I do is I go to the coffee machine and get a coffee so that I can have some caffeine, so I can wake myself up. Right? Like that's a drug. That's a stimulant. Whether we want to believe it or not, I used it to wake up. And if I was to have 10 of those coffees this morning, I'd be a completely different person. If I was to have 20 of those coffees, right, like I might end up in the hospital. So it's like, it really comes down to what we're willing to accept and not accept. And people get very disillusioned and just crazy about this idea behind what's drugs and what's not drugs. And if you really dig into it, there's a lot more out there than you think there is, you know?
And it's all about perception. I mean, realistically, there's people that believe taking protein powder is going to be a form of cheating because they're not getting it through a whole food source
Right.
and it's been processed to some degree. So And the danger aspect, I think so many people and some of the fear around the enhanced games is that we might be putting these athletes in danger. But what you have seen, what I have seen, the danger aspect, I mean, it's there. Anything can become dangerous and
Yeah.
become problematic. But when you have a team of professionals, when you understand the pharmacodynamics, it becomes very different when you're not having to do it in secrecy. When you are doping, it's cheating because
Yeah.
it's not allowed. And then you're trying to hide it, you're trying to get things out of your system, it's irresponsible, you don't have medical oversight. So the fact that it's open, on the table, allowable makes a huge difference in terms of athlete safety.
Yeah, that's right. And all the compounds that we're using in the study and for the athletes are all FDA approved. These are compounds that are being used in everyday life, right? And you know a lot about this, and you know what they do and what they don't do. But there are a lot of misconceptions. The idea around taking a compound and it just exponentially just improving you to a point where you're going to become this superhuman. It's just that part of it's not reality either. As well, it's like you have to understand what are the benefits and the timings and how to use the compounds and effectively and get to a point and then your body, everybody's body reacts differently, so you have to monitor that, and you have to, so there might be some athletes that might take a compound and don't experience any differences really, and then there might be others that might experience them.
The records.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's that. So it's just for us, it's a learning experience, but we are doing it in the most safe possible conditions under medical supervision, highly medical supervision. But you know what it's like too, is like the athletes will say, or people will say, what you're doing is dangerous. Anytime you're trying to do something that's never been done at the highest level, you're trying to break a world record, it's dangerous. Like athletes die in that process of trying to be the best ever, by pushing their bodies to the extreme every day. And if you don't know what's going on in your body, that can be very dangerous. Whereas now we know exactly what's happening in these athletes' bodies because they're being monitored so heavily. So we have a much better understanding and much more safety protocols around the performance side of it as well. So we can say unequivocally that these athletes are under the best conditions to push themselves in that situation.
So the athletes, obviously, this is an incredible journey for them. There's so much, you have so many specialty branches within the enhanced games. Everybody has a role. What does it look like on your end? Are you having to learn about what the compounds are, how they're impacting their bodies, or are you doing what you do best and coaching style stays the same? What's changing on your end from working with natural athletes to enhanced athletes?
Yeah, for sure. It's a really good question. I guess in some respects, it's good and bad that AI has come out around the same time. Because if I do have a question at times, I might go to that, but then I'll cross-reference it with people with experience like yourself. I'll reach out to people that really know what they're talking about and have had hands-on experience. So it's one thing to read about it or learn about it on AI, and that can be dangerous in and of itself, but it can be helpful at times. But I really try and rely on the people that have experience, and I don't have the experience. So when I make phone calls and talk to people, I really appreciate the knowledge that I'm gaining from them. It's like I always found the best coaches are the most inquisitive coaches anyway. They don't feel like they know everything, and I never have felt that way anyway about sprinting. So I'm trying to dig into as much learning as I can. And at the same time, while we're in this study, I'm excited about the fact that these learnings will be presented to everybody else so they can learn from them as well. So this is the first time in history that we're actually putting this information out openly, right? Like we know that this stuff has been happened in the past, but it's all been secret undercover by either individuals or federations or even nations, have done stuff like this. And we've all seen the documentaries and we've heard the stories about Lance Armstrong and his team and people like that, so it's like we know it's going on. We just haven't had a chance to really study it. So I'm hoping this will open it up for the future so that we can do things the right way in the future for everybody.
So when you first made this decision and like it went public, everybody knew your involvement, did you get any pushback or criticism from your peers that were already in the industry?
Yeah, I still get it. I've had friends and mentors that won't talk to me anymore. I guess it's a lot of when I say mentors, it generally means people that are older than you. So they're going to have this view that they've done it the right way, all their lives, and they're afraid. They're afraid of the future. And I guess that's, again, I bring up AI, the way that AI has come on in the last few years and the fear around that, and people have had to slowly accept that it's here, whether we like it or not. And I think that's the point that I got to, especially after watching the Paris Olympics. I think that was my eighth Olympics alive, where I really understood what was going on. And by that stage, I was like, all right, this is not real. This is not reality. And even watching the Winter Olympics, you see some of these superhuman performances, and you're like, it's not real. It's not as real as I hope it would be, So I'm not as naive as I used to be. So I guess what I'm saying is that it's the future. It's inevitable. It was going to happen whether I'm involved or not. I'm excited that I am involved, but it was going to happen. And I saw kind of the writing on the wall. And I know that you're in certain industries, and it's a lot more acceptable in certain industries. But I think in the Olympic movement, to me, it was really inevitable. Like, for instance, DJ, they don't even have a test for GLP-1s at the Olympics. Like, you're telling me that athletes who need to control their weight or even lose weight aren't going to be using GLP-1s, and they're not being monitored at the Olympic level. There's no test for it. So it's really interesting to me that this stuff is out there and there's no way to stop it, and it's really the future.
I think that's a lot of it is it's almost impossible to control and
Yeah.
dictate some of those things. And as we see that ban list growing, I think I don't, and I might be speaking out of place here, but I think there was a point in time where like DHEA supplementation here in the US, it's crazy. You can just go buy it at the grocery store. It's prescription everywhere else, but that's
Yeah.
something that a lot of people are deficient in, and it can really bring back quality of life, erection quality, libido, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And if you're deficient, for us, it's very easy. We just go buy it. And I think there was like a milligram cap before it was considered a PED. And I said, how on earth are we enforcing that you're only it's okay to take up to 50 milligrams? And I'm pretty sure recently WADA put it on a complete ban list, and it's unavailable entirely. So you're kind of always walking that line of, is this a supplement? Is it helping your quality of life? Is this something you're deficient in? Like when we look at hormone replacement therapies and like therapy or therapeutic use exemptions,
Yeah.
it gets, so I feel like this just kind of eliminates all of those variables and creates an even playing field for everybody to just be their absolute best.
Yeah, oh, I'm glad you brought that up too, that therapeutic use exemption. That's another thing about the Olympic movement that people don't fully understand or want to admit or even talk about is the use of therapeutic use exemptions and how easy they are to manipulate that system. So in the Olympic movement, if you've got a reason to have a prescription, you go to a doctor and get this therapeutic use exemption. For instance, let's say Adderall. Like if you say you've got ADD and ADHD and you need Adderall, right? We know, you and I know how powerful Adderall is as a drug and how the benefits you can get out of performance using Adderall, and so you could just go to a doctor, get a prescription, take that, get a therapeutic use exemption, and then claim to be clean and claim to be an athlete that doesn't take drugs, and yet you're on Adderall and you're competing against people that aren't on Adderall, and you've got a massive advantage against them. So it's like, so yeah, that's the kind of thing where if we really dig into things like that, the hypocrisy kind of exposes itself.
Is there anything really truly clean when we start looking at those
No,
aspects?
no.
So from a coaching perspective, what have you seen in terms of performance? What an actual practical application, what are you seeing in your athletes on a day to day?
The biggest thing is the recovery aspect, I would say. Like I could have a really intense workout. I could even have back-to-back intense workouts. And normally I would say that would take me 48 hours up to maybe even 72 hours to get back to a point where I could hit them just as hard again. And now I'm seeing it, you know, up to 12 hours where I can go again. So I guess that was the learning experience for me is like, again, yeah, they're going to come in and they're going to be recovered and they're going to want to go again and they're going to grow fast, but exponentially over time, that still has a cumulative effect, right? So the harder I push and the quicker we come back and do it again, the body is going to, through the enhancements, the body is going to react really well to that, and the body's going to recover very well. But what I found is that the neurological system, the CNS, and that firing system didn't recover as well. And I had to learn the lesson the hard way with James Magnuson, the first athlete to come on board. He was making incredible gains early on. He was feeling great. He was bouncing into the next workout. He was running to the gym, like he was like ready to go. And then over time, what happened is his central nervous system just wasn't recovering as quick, and so we kind of started to flatline a little bit in terms of performance in the pool and in the gym, and we kind of had a regression. Like he just got slower over time. And I'm talking like, stuff that I would just see on a stopwatch that was very minimal, but it was enough to be like, all right, we've got a red flag here type thing. So yeah, we saw growth and we saw recovery rates increase, but over time it kind of flattened out and then it kind of regressed a little bit again. So I had to learn the hard way that these compounds aren't kind of a catch-all, and you've got to look at the recovery systems a little bit differently when you're looking for growth.
And how has athlete mental health changed? Have you noticed a lot of changes in how they think? I know you said you have psychologists on staff, right?
Yeah. Yes. 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 Well, the big thing here is as you and I speak right now, all the athletes that are in Abu Dhabi have not started their protocol yet. They've done a lot of the testing. It's been the past few weeks has been all of the baseline testing work. So we've been doing all the MRIs and all the analysis, all the blood work and all that. So that's taken a few weeks. And so as I sit here right now, the bulk of the athletes have not started any protocols. So when I talk about protocols, I'm talking about the two athletes that I worked with previously who went through a protocol. But as we sit here now, these athletes haven't started. So it's going to be interesting to see how the 17 new athletes kind of respond to this stuff. So I'm still going to go through some learnings here. I've never taken, for instance, women through this protocol before, and I've got 4 women here who are about to start next week. And so again, I'm going to lean on people like yourself who understand this better than I do, and it's going to be interesting the learnings that I get from this once we start. So we've got about 10 weeks before the games, and we're going to do a 10-week protocol, and that officially starts next week.
Do you think, so far from what you've seen, which has made the biggest difference? The opportunity for these athletes to access certain prophylactics and recovery protocols, get the medical insight, or the actual compounds? I've seen what you've been posting. They're climbing into these chambers and machines. I don't know what they do. I'm having to Google them. Like, it's incredible what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, the access to recovery modalities has just been phenomenal, and I actually it's interesting that you bring that up because I sat with the CEO about a week ago, and we've been here now for 3 weeks, and I said, you have no idea the performance increase just based around the access to the things that we've done even before protocols. The fact that they're in a 5-star resort, the fact that they're getting all their meals taken care of by a 5-star chef, the fact that they've got money in the bank, and like you said, all the different recovery modalities and things that they have access to right now before the enhancement. So it's like I've seen a massive increase in performance in the past 3 weeks just being here, being in a controlled environment where they're being absolutely taken care of. So there's that aspect of it. So that's been phenomenal. It's like now we'll get another increase in performance once they start their protocol. So look, I'm expecting these athletes to perform better than they've ever performed. Some of them are coming out of retirement for 5 or 6 years. Some of them haven't swum competitively in a long time. And I'm still expecting them within 4 or 5 months to swim faster than they've ever swum before, which is crazy to think. Like you wouldn't normally be able to get that type of results that quickly. And then there's athletes that swam at the Paris Olympics who are legitimately looking at breaking world records. And I think it's going to be one of those situations where we don't look at just breaking them, we look at smashing them now. So I'm kind of excited about all of that.
Is that what you see at this very first enhanced games, that we're going to be breaking world records? I know we can't go for like specific swim times or anything yet, but Is that what we can expect?
I would absolutely imagine that we have a very good chance at a couple of them for sure. And I think if you're in the swimming world and you know the athletes that we've signed in our roster, you probably know the athletes that have the best chance. They're right there before the enhanced games, like they're right on top of the world record. So I would imagine we're going to see an increase in performance, which will then catapult them past anything we've seen previously. And so, yes, I would expect there'll be a few world records to be broken for sure.
Now, you said earlier that you've had some broken relationships in choosing this path, which is mind blowing to me, especially given where I am in the industry now, that that could ever impact a personal relationship or even working relationship with someone, especially given that you're doing it under, with FDA regulated compounds. There's still guidelines, medical oversight. We're not doing shady, questionable things.
Yeah.
It's on the table, it's out in the open. What kind of pushback are your athletes getting with this?
Um, Not as much, not as much as me, I guess. I guess a lot of people see me in a role where, I'm supposed to know better or they look at the athletes and say, well, they're getting an opportunity as an athlete that they wouldn't normally get, especially financially. And a lot of people don't fault them for that. They think, well, if you get a chance to make money where you can buy a house and buy a car and look after your family, if you're an athlete, like who's really going to begrudge you for that? Now, there's certainly people that say, well, you're not a role model anymore and things like that. But I think a lot more people look at me and say, well, you should know better, Brett. And my response to that is, well, you should know better. Like the learnings that I've taken from this and the understanding I have from it, I think people are just naive. But I think it'll change, it'll shift. But the athletes themselves haven't had a lot of pushback in terms of that. It's been pretty encouraging. A lot of people either behind closed doors will say they fully support it, they love it, they can't wait to watch it, but they're not willing to come out publicly and say
Publicly.
it. So they've actually had a lot of support from their fellow athletes.
I think it's a hard thing in this industry to say that you support something, you're an advocate of something, and you're okay with it without it coming off as pushing that agenda on other people. Like, hey, we work with enhanced athletes, we're pushing boundaries here, versus you should take these things. Athletes should take
Yeah.
compounds. And that's very difficult to portray it positively without it being received negatively, I think.
Yeah, for sure. We all go out to bars, right? And there are people that don't drink alcohol. And it's like you don't want to walk into a bar and know that someone who doesn't drink alcohol say shove drinks in their face and be like, "Hey, you got to drink with us. You should be drinking alcohol. You should be getting drunk." That's never cool. Like you want everyone to have their own personal choice. Some people will be drinking, some people won't be. And these are adult choices, right? Like and it's the same thing here with athletes. It's like we certainly don't want to push anything on anybody. It's personal choice. But these athletes do have the ability to make these choices as adults. And we certainly wouldn't encourage this for children or for anyone that was in the Olympic movement. Like we're dead against that stuff. So it's like this is a completely separate organization where adults are making their own personal choices. And we want it just to be viewed that way.
Now, how does athlete biofeedback get portrayed to providers? Because I obviously they're speaking directly to their physicians, but your role, you're looking at their performance, you're tracking their times. How do you play into that role in communication?
Yeah, it's a really good question. The one time specifically that I went through this with Christian and he ended up breaking the world record, I was having weekly meetings with his doctor and Christian, and it was all, I was invited into those meetings. I certainly wasn't there to make any decisions. It was all between Christian and the doctor, but what I was able to do was listen in on what the doctor was telling Christian and the decisions they were making. And then the doctor allowed me to give feedback in terms of what I was seeing in the pool. And then he would tell me, well, that's normal or this is abnormal and things like that. And so I would kind of bounce it off him. And so that way it would help me understand what am I meant to be seeing? What should I be looking out for? So these doctors have so much experience, just like you, in terms of these compounds, and it was very easy for them to say, well, this is what you should expect when you take this dose at this time for this long and things like that. And I was like, oh yeah, there it is. And so I was able to kind of just put all the puzzle pieces together and we made some decisions together based on some adjustments as we went that we wanted to make. There was actually a time where we felt like we were certainly afraid of any athlete getting too big in the pool. Like
Hmm.
it's a no-no to get too big, but it's for buoyancy and for feel of the water and things like that.
It's
It's not.
hysterical to watch my husband swim, I can say that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. You don't want to be too big, and so that was one of our fears, and we had to keep a very close eye on that. So that was one of those adjustment things that we were looking at over time as well.
So coaching is stressful in itself. And then especially coaching at your level. Is this very high pressure for you? I mean, I know it's high pressure for the athletes because the whole world is watching saying, what are you going to do different? Are you going to be bigger, better, faster? What are we going to see? Like it's controversial and it's coming up quick. But for
Yeah.
the coach responsible for them, do you feel a difference in pressure or is this just like another day in the office?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly pressure. I certainly feel it, right? But this is another day in the office for me. I've been swimming at the highest level, at the Olympic level. I was making Olympic finals at the age of 25. I'm 50 now, so half my life I've been at the highest level, performing in do or die situations. The Olympics in the sprint events, you get one shot on one day, and if you're not ready, then you have to wait another 4 years. So like that's about as cutthroat as you can get. So, and then I've coached people to break world records and win Olympic gold medals. I've been at the highest level for so long that it feels very comfortable for me. It's my home. I actually feel more uncomfortable when I'm not in situations like this. I hate it. So I love this aspect of feeling like everybody's watching us and they're expecting certain things. I remind the athletes of that every day too. Is like, hey, we've got to perform at the end of the day. This is nice to be in this environment, but we're in a performance-based sport, so that's what our focus should always be.
So we're coming up on 10 weeks out from the enhanced games.
A little longer, so I think we're at 12 weeks now. So we should get about 10 weeks fully on the compounds, which will be good.
What excites you most about this? Like what was the driving reason? What finally said like I'm going to be a part of this, I'm going to join, I'm going to coach the athletes.
But there's a little bit of there's a little, when somebody tells you not to do something, I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway, kind of things. I've got a little bit of that in me, and maybe that's just the sprinter in me. I don't like being told what not to do. So, but no, I think the ultimately the most exciting thing for me is I had coached the two fastest swimmers in history, and now I'm looking at, and I've always looked at how do we go beyond, how do we go faster. That's always been the way I think, and this to me was the next level of how do we go beyond what we're doing. We were looking at hundreds of seconds in the past. Now we're looking at tenths of seconds in the sprint freestyle, and that's so exciting to me. I'd never been able to really think that far ahead. Whereas if I was to look at this, I'm thinking 10 years in the future now. We've only had two swimmers swim under 21 seconds. I'm actually thinking now of how do we get a swimmer to go under 20 seconds? And like nobody in the world is thinking like that except for me because I'm in this world now where I get access to maybe be able to think like that. It's not going to happen this year, next year, but again, like if I can look 10 years in the future, there will be an athlete that goes under 20 seconds in the 50 freestyle, which is just, I mean, I could never even comprehend that previously.
So when we're coming to Vegas, the date is
20.
May 24th. When will you guys head back stateside?
Yeah, we're going to come back about 10 days out. So that gives us enough time to kind of readjust. It's a 12-hour difference from here to Abu Dhabi, from Abu Dhabi to Vegas. And so, yeah, I think all the athletes are going to be flying business class, so they're going to feel pretty good getting off the plane anyway. But yeah, it's about 10 days that we'll get back in Vegas.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I can go in person. That's my goal is to fly out, especially because this is the first year. But what are we expecting? I know that we've seen little previews of the arena here and there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's massive. I mean, they're putting so much into this. They're even having, an exhibition event between Thor, like two of the strong men, the world's strongest men, have an exhibition event where they're trying to break the I think the deadlift world record. So That's going to be super exciting. Mitchell Hooper's the other guy. And then there's going to be a halftime show. They're talking about some of the biggest names in entertainment doing that. And it's just going to be a massive spectacle. You're going to have, it's a 4-lane swimming pool. So usually an Olympic-sized pool is 8 lanes. This is only 4 lanes. It's just straight down the middle. There's a track right next to it. There's a weightlifting facility behind that. So it's just going to be this massive spectacle that goes over 3 hours, and it's going to be entertainment, ultimately, and it's going to be unlike anything we've seen before.
Where do you see the future of sports going? Do you think that this is the future? Now, I know your CEO is very outspoken, and he has no problem saying this. What do you think as a coach? Do you think this is the direction that we're headed, and just human optimization and performance?
That's a good way to put it. Human optimization and performance. Yeah, I think absolutely. This is absolutely the future. We've been doing it the other way too long, and it's just not working. People know that. Athletes aren't getting paid fairly, compensated fairly, supported fairly. They don't have access to all the health benefits that we have and the information. And it's just it's an outdated system, right? This is the future of sport, and performance is looking at every single aspect of performance and saying, how can we maximize it? And this is exactly what we're doing here. So to me, this is the future. It's only going to get bigger and better. Year 2, there's going to be even better athletes that are more interested in what we're doing and wanting to be joining us. So again, we're not trying to, it's not an us against them situation, but we're trying to do something that's never been done before and do it the right way and attract even better athletes in the future.
I think athlete pay is a huge part of it, honestly.
Yeah.
The athletes are being provided for both financially and with, their training, their recovery, everything. You're taking good care of your athletes. Yeah. And whether people want to say this out loud or not, to these athletes, it's their sport, it's their livelihood. This is their life. But at the same time, this is also entertainment. The people that go to watch, it is entertainment. So when we can watch people push beyond their genetic limitations, we're going to pay more to see it. We pay more to see it. It's more interesting to the public. The athletes are rewarded. And when they're making a living doing this, it's only fair that they are compensated appropriately.
Right, absolutely. Talk about performance and entertainment. One of the biggest events this year that people have watched is USA versus Canada in the hockey a couple of hours ago. The whole of America's watching this thing, and the American hockey team performed incredibly well and won the gold medal, and everybody's watching it. It's massive ratings all around the world. It's a huge game, huge implications. And those hockey players were paid exactly $0 from the IOC. Right? The Olympic Committee paid them nothing. Nothing. They got no cuts of anything. Now, that's not to say these hockey players aren't paid well in other ways, right? We know that. But in terms of the Olympic movement, $0. And that's exactly the way it goes for all the Olympic athletes. And so that's not the way it's going to go at the enhanced games. The athletes are going to get compensated fairly for their performance and their entertainment for sure.
Now, when you got into this, obviously there was some expectation or preconceived notions. Has it met your expectations, like in terms of their performance and outcome?
Yeah, it's a small company, it's a growing company, and we're bringing and attracting more people as we go, and it's evolving, right? So if everybody thinks that this is where it's going to be in 5 years, we're just at the beginning, and so there are still learnings, there are still growing pains, right? And the things that we're learning as we're going, and the things we're trying to get right very quickly, improve on very quickly. So it's certainly not perfect yet, but it's as close as we can get the first year. Everybody's willingness to do everything the right way, and sometimes that slows us down even, like to do it the right way. And so we're trying to set it up so that there's a foundation where it's like, this is done right and it attracts the right people. And I feel like I'm in that very early. And for some people that can be nerve-wracking, like, is this going to take off? Is it not? Is it going to be successful? Is it not? I'm not that type of person. If I go into something, I'm all into something. So I believe it in 100%. I'm giving everything I've got to this. And I know the people that have joined this organization up front are kind of groundbreakers and trailblazers in that sense. And they're taking a lot of risk here, and they're putting their careers and reputations on the line. So everybody knows what's at stake here, and I think we're treating that as honestly and fairly as we can by giving it 100%.
So I've been I've been looking at the athlete rollouts, which have been really cool how you guys have been announcing them, but I feel like they keep coming out. Are there any more athletes that you guys will be announcing, or do you have the final rosters for May?
We're very close, but yeah, we still are signing a couple of athletes, surprisingly, even this late. There are a couple of swimming announcements that haven't been announced yet, and one of them very big and very surprising. It is a US athlete, I'll tell you that. And we're super excited about it. And that's going to come out in the next few weeks. And that'll be, but yeah, there's very few spots left available. And we do pretty much have our roster set. But there are still a couple of signings that are going to come out in the next few weeks.
Now, I don't know if you can talk about this aspect or not. Is there a recruitment process, or is this just a, hey, this is what we have to offer. If you want to join us, come on over.
Well, the biggest recruitment piece to this was the announcement back in Vegas in May last year when we announced that we were going to hold the games. It was going to be at Resorts World. We had broken the world record. It was part of the documentary announcement. So that was like the biggest recruitment piece is like,
I
hey, we're
was
doing
still
this.
skeptical when that came out. I was like, it's not gonna be that fast.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and look, we've been going at 100 miles an hour to try and make it happen within a year as well. So it's tough. It's tough. But yeah, I guess after that it was just reaching out to people, seeing if they're interested, other people reaching out to us, and that's still the way it's going. We're still getting interest. And even like you said, you're watching us here in Abu Dhabi put out content. More people are learning about it, more people are watching it, more people are seeing the support we're getting, more people are seeing the detail we're putting into this. And they're like, oh, can I be part of that? And for some of them, it's like, no, it's too late now, maybe year two. Others, it might be, oh, hang on, do we have a spot for this person? We need to find a spot kind of thing. So, yeah, it's still an ongoing process of just putting the final touches on this thing.
So outside of, what the media team puts out, what do you think the main message of the enhanced games, or what do you think the enhanced games represents?
For me, I think it represents the future. Like, I'm a 50-year-old man, and I am certainly concerned about my own declining health over time and the implications of that. And we've all seen, we're all on Instagram and other places where we see all these compounds coming out, and there's all these, people that think they know everything and all these, you have a word for it. I think I've seen you talk about these,
Oh, I have a
these,
lot of words for it, but I'm not going
yeah,
to say it
yeah.
here.
But again, it's just inevitable, and I guess so. For me, it's like, how can we? Longevity is the biggest word that's out there right now, right? Like, how can we live longer, healthier, happier, stronger? And I think that to me, that there is a massive longevity piece to this. Not only for athletes, like I said, we've had athletes that have been retired 5 or 6 years. They're able to come back now and compete at the highest level. So like we're talking about athlete longevity, we're talking about, regular everyday human longevity. I'll be 70 years old in 20 years from now. It's like I want to be healthy and happy and strong and thriving in 20 years. So there's a massive piece to this that is being overlooked in a sense where we're getting caught on decision making that the children make and the influence we can have on them. But what about the decision making and the influence we can have on the older aging population and how that can help them? So that's really what I hope we get out of this is more effective learnings, and it can have a real effect on the population in the future.
No, I like that tie-in a lot because I do think a lot of it's about longevity. Essentially, we're living longer,
Yeah,
so we should live better. Why not have that
yeah,
quality of life and
yeah,
age well? And then why would we not have our top performing athletes be reflective of that? Why would the top performing athletes in the world
yeah.
not be utilizing that when I am just because I want better skin?
Right, right. No, I absolutely agree. Like you get these athletes with these little niggling injuries that put them out of competition. It's like, why wouldn't you just take something, be able to recoup and recover as quickly as possible, get back out and do the thing that you're born to do, that you love to do, that you've spent your whole life doing? Like, why not be able to invest in that? I was actually sitting here on this couch last night. I ordered a health IV, like an NAD plus and vitamins. Came to my room last night and they injected me with this IV and it just gave me this boost. And it's like, why can't athletes do that? Why is that illegal? If I'm doing it for my own health and well-being, Why can't other people do it? So that's what I hope we get out of this is just this awareness and understanding of the longevity aspect.
I love how diplomatic you are. It's not us versus them, it's just different. But I'm going to go ahead and say it. Realistically, I think that it is a huge problem that we are all advancing and we are in this new era of human optimization and we are keeping our athletes essentially in the Stone Age.
Yeah,
I do think it is a problem.
it's a massive problem. It's something that the ISC are going to have to address, and they've already come after us in ways that they've tried to shut us down in certain aspects and not allow people to work with us and things like that. That's been challenging, but I think ultimately they're not looking at the bigger picture here and what's the biggest fight for them is that athletes do want to optimize. Athletes do want to be healthier and stronger longer. They do want to compete on the world stage longer, and there are compounds and people out there that can help them now, and they're going to want that in the future.
Okay, so I have one more question for you before we wrap up then. Coolest thing you have done working with the Enhanced Games, either what you've witnessed as a coach or what you've been able to do or where you've traveled?
Oh wow, that's a really good question. This
I've
whole
just been living vicariously through you.
yeah. There's a little bit of that. Like I'm trying to get people to be like, wow, this is a whole different way of living over here, you know? And I think that that's been part of putting this stuff out there. It's to document it. Like I'm going through my phone every week and I'm like just looking at all the photos and just the places we've been and things we've done. I think the coolest thing is just the level of support and the willingness of Max Martin, our CEO, to say, he says to me all the time, he's like, Brett, whatever you need, let me know and we'll find a way to get it, right? Like that's kind of the mentality here is like whatever you need, like anything that is going to help your performance, anything that's going to help better you as a coach, any situation we can put you in that is going to give you the best possible outcome, right? And I think that's the mentality I love in high performance. You want that mentality, and I feel like we've just been fully supported at the highest level from our CEO down. That's the mentality they have is like do it and do it well and do it big and think big. And so yeah, I'm just thriving. But like how can I really complain? I think the best aspect of this is being in Abu Dhabi. Like I had maybe some different perceptions of Abu Dhabi before I came out here. And this is a beautiful country, beautiful people, beautiful culture. We've just been so well accepted and welcomed. And I could really see myself like buying a place here and living here. This is a beautiful place to live. So yeah, it's been phenomenal. I think there's more coming. So sorry about that. We're going to keep pumping stuff out there.
Okay, so Enhanced Games, very first one, Vegas, May 2026. We are expecting, hoping for some world records to be broken. If you are not following Brett already, you need to go follow his Instagram. You can follow the Enhanced Games. Where can they find you and where can they find your company?
They can find me on Instagram at Hawke BR HAWKEBR. They can follow the Enhanced Games on all the different social channels just under Enhanced Games. So they can watch the original documentary on YouTube. If you go to the Enhanced Games YouTube channel, you can see 50 Meters to History is the name of the documentary, and so you can learn all about that. But yeah, May 24th, everybody's going to see a spectacle and something that's super cool in Vegas. It's going to be free to everybody to watch. So I'm hoping that everybody tunes in.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on today. And I will put all of Brett's links down in the comments and bio section. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right.